What captured your attention first when it came to the GTA 6 trailers? Was it the cars? Was it the models? Or was it how beautiful this place looked? It's an honest question. We all sort of immediately were taken in by these sweeping shots, and I can totally understand why. This neon-soaked, absolutely beautiful landscape is hard not to instantly fall in love with, and I get the excitement that is pumping through you to explore Vice City and Leonida as a place completely. For me personally, I adore everything about these trailers, and believe me, I've looked at them a lot when editing the footage. I use these trailers quite often. I probably have more experience than most on looking at these shots. It's gorgeous, it's hard not to be enwrapped in, but what if I said to you, that's not the thing that I think should appeal to you the most? Yes, it's easy to get swept up with the glitz and glamour and all the beautiful lighting here, but it's so easy to get caught up in those things that they know that. And they know that's what you'll pay attention to in these trailer shots, that's why they pick them. I think something that a lot of people are overlooking is something that we've overlooked for the past 12 years, and that is that the beauty of world building is in the simplistic areas more so than ever. Yes, the beautiful sweeping cities are just that, they are beautiful and sweeping, but what if I said to take a closer look at areas like Leonida Keys, or Grass Rivers, or Port Gellhorn? I guarantee you've maybe looked into it a little bit in the screenshots, but have you really fallen in love with it yet? I don't expect you to. I expect you've done the same as everybody else. You've seen how pretty the screenshots are and you've moved on. I'm here to say why I think that these areas are more important than anywhere, and I'm going to use the same method I always do to talk about everything, which is by talking about Rockstar's past. So if you'll indulge me for a little bit, come on a journey with me while I talk about something that is quite near and dear to my heart. Welcome to Sandy Shores. I'm sure you know this area, and I'm sure some of you go, oh god, at the idea of even visiting Sandy Shores, because the game does a horrible job of making you feel like it's a chore to come here. This is the area more than anywhere that the game will send you to do a mission out of the way, or online to kill time and drag out the experience, and I completely understand your reservations about this place when it's treated in that fashion to you. It's also an awful experience because GTA 5's map is pretty much god-awful, if I'm being honest with you. I know several content creators have covered this before, but one of the main issues with Sandy and Paleto and anything north of the city is that you have to travel up these two main roads to get here, and whilst there is a few other diverging paths through the Rockford Hills or the Vinewood Hills, it's not much variation, so you end up going back and forth to the city all day along these two same stretches of highway, and it gets tedious. So most people end up seeing Sandy as this, do I have to go there again kind of location, and I get it. However, for me, Sandy is a bit different. I've spoken about this before, but I roleplayed for years. So for me, I stayed up in Sandy 90% of my day. It was where we all used to hang out, and I've lived here in a sense or form of the word. I spent a massive amount of time here during a pretty shitty time, which was 2020. I won't go into that, but it gave me escape from not being able to leave the confines of my own house. So this area was home. I spent an immense amount of time wandering around, looking at stuff, experiencing this area, and I think it has a lot of charm that goes unnoticed. This area is quite literally the town on the bad side of the tracks. Literally, you have to cross a railroad track to get into Sandy, which is on the nose, as GTA loves to do, and I guarantee you most people have never even thought about it, right? You cross the wrong side of the tracks to go to the bad town, and that's Sandy. Welcome, here we are. But it's actually a very charming place with a lot of sense of community that is lacking elsewhere. The city is this hustling, bustling, busy metropolis where younger adults wander around on their cell cell phones, enraptured in their own conversations, too busy to go get their next bean machine order that they don't stop and talk. And yet here we are in Sandy, where 99% of the time what you're going to see is small clusters of people being a community. For me, this is some of the best things that it can do, because it shows that sense of division between busy metropolis and small-town rural America. There are several examples I want to highlight here today. I don't want to give you every single example under the sun, because I do want to encourage you to go and explore this off your own back, but just understand that some of this does need you to kind of fill in gaps a little bit and take some creative liberties with what's being displayed to you. At the end of the day, this game is approaching 13 years in age. It's not as young and snappy as Red Dead 2, and that is a game that I will definitely get onto in the future with more of this kind of stuff, but try to keep an open mind when we talk about this stuff, because it really does have a lot of charm that I think most people don't take the time to see. So, I think first and foremost something I want to address is where this is based off of and why it makes it such a great location. Don't worry, this isn't going to be one of those picture tours of the real life location. I don't want to do that. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there that cover that kind of stuff, but what I do want to do is talk about, in a game that is an amalgamation of California, how this small area is an amalgamation of small areas. So the real life Sandy Shores is a place called Salton Sea in California, and Desert Shores and Bombay Beach are kind of all tied into Sandy Shores as one location. There are several areas of this map that have real life counterparts that are kind of spread across a few miles and are not condensed down in the way that Sandy does. Sandy, in the same way as the city, is kind of the best of greatest hits compilation of the real life locations. It gives this wonderful sense of reality to a small town which didn't need to be created. We have real world locations that we can pull from and put them into this one little area to make the perfect rundown town. It is incredibly interesting, to me at least, to look at these real world locations and see them applied in the way that the Rockstar chose to apply them, which is this dusty, sleepy, quaint little town in the middle of nowhere. When I was looking around Google Maps at the actual area, it kind of amazed me how much is based off of the real world location. The Alamo Sea, the surrounding road systems, and the mountains in the background, although heightened up to 11 in GTA, it's all there. And this is a beautiful thing, considering that the real world location seems like a rundown town with not many people living there anymore. Granted, this game was in development 15 years ago at this point, and maybe there was more life there back then, but nowadays this serves as a time capsule for dying remote towns like this, and I think that's a beautiful thing that really shouldn't be overlooked. So one of the things that you'll notice most in Sandy as a whole is, like I said, these clusters of people hanging around, and it really is this sense of community that is so beautiful to see up here. The first thing to note is that Rockstar doesn't really put much in without thought. They tend to put clusters of people together to kind of give an idea of padding out the environment, yes, but there's also some symbolicness to why they do it, and it really struck me first and foremost at this little stop here, just literally up the road from the 24/7. There's these two people having a conversation. Now they could be husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, brother and sister, I don't know, but they just stood up here having a smoke and a conversation, and it seems pretty innocuous. Nothing really much to say here besides the fact that across the street is this woman right here. Now, you could just say, but Fairs, that's just a woman stood there doing nothing besides smoking as well, and you might be right, and I completely agree with you, but this is where that creative liberty of storytelling comes in. We don't know exactly what happened here, but maybe there's a story that we're missing. This woman is stood here because maybe she used to be part of this little group of people and they don't speak anymore. Or perhaps she's his ex-girlfriend or her ex-girlfriend, or perhaps they're just neighbors that don't get along. Regardless of what the story may be, I think it's nice that she's just stood here quite menacingly staring across the street directly at them, almost like a scorned lover. It's a nice little touch that I couldn't really find anywhere else in Sandy. I looked a lot, but I couldn't find the same thing recreated besides right here. I don't know why, but I really like this little touch. It gives something to a otherwise completely innocent little conversation between two people, just to have this third looming in the background. Next up, I want to talk about the 24/7. And yeah, it's an odd one to talk about, but again, bear with me. To give some context here, I'll be calling the shopkeeper Ravi. It's a little quirk that we have from roleplay that everyone who plays roleplay, at least on the server I played on, calls him Ravi because of a character that was created by another roleplayer. So, for the purpose of the conversation, Ravi, who runs the 24/7 here, he is a hard-working man, and a lot of us kind of overlook that this is his job. The 24/7 for us is just this little tidbit playground that we can go to, rob, and have a bit of fun on a daily basis. Even when we're bored or between missions, you just pop in, point a gun at him, and off we go, right? We don't think anything of it, because he's an NPC, why would we? But Ravi, he works at all of these 24/7s, and his job is to serve, and he does it well. But if you've ever worked in a minimum wage job, you know this feeling, right? You remember working that job, and it's got its quirks, and you don't mind it, sure, but it's a job at the end of the day, and every job has downsides. The downsides in Los Santos being shot, robbed, and, held up most days by most people, but that's, a different story. So I looked around a little bit here to find something that really would catch my eye, and I found it. And I know you're gonna say this is the stupidest thing ever, but it's out the back of the store. The rest of the store is pretty simple, it's got shelves, it's got a back office, but out the back of the store, there is this small plastic chair. Just one plastic chair. I can feel me losing you quickly, so let me get to the point. I remember working in a minimum wage job where I wanted nothing more than to get on my smoke break, go out the back and smoke, and sit in the one shitty plastic chair that was out the back. Just 5-10 minutes away from customers was literally all I was waiting for at my lunch break or my break in general. We never get to see Ravi use this chair, but we do get to sort of put together the puzzle pieces that this one lonely chair in this sad alleyway behind the store is used for that purpose, that moment of respite that this poor bastard so desperately needs in a really messed up world that he lives in. I don't know why, but this one I love so much because it's so simple. It's a plastic chair outside of a door, but to Ravi, this is his 5-10 minute break away from being robbed and shot. And I don't know, I find something cathartic about imagining him just sat in this chair, decompressing from his shift, going, Jesus Christ, I need to get out of here. The final one I'm going to touch on is the abandoned motel on the far side of town. Why I love this little area is because this is where the homeless community of Sandy and the surrounding areas congregates. It's kind of its own community inside of a community. Here we have, Sandy as a whole, this area filled with people who do still own property, trailers, houses, whatever it may be, but there is a secondary community here which is the homeless population, and they live, or at least take shelter, in this abandoned motel. They group together, they talk, they drink, and they just do their best to survive, all while doing it on the outskirts of an already existing community, not to get in the way. I don't know, maybe I'm looking a bit too deep into this, but I do find it almost poetic that this ostracized town outside of a city has another group that sees themselves as, we need to stay to our own area and stay out of their way. And they do. You know, you can see them sometimes occasionally wandering around, but for the most part, it's right by this area where they all stay together, and there's plenty of times you will see them grouped on staircases or balconies or in these rooms just doing their best to get by. So ultimately, Fairs, what is your point is what you're getting to, and I can hear you saying it, so let me get down to how this changes my opinion on 6. But before I get on to that, I do just want to say thank you so much for watching so far. It does mean the world to me, and I'm not going to take up too much time. But if you would like to subscribe, I am trying to reach 15,000 subscribers before GTA 6 comes out. That's a goal I set for myself, and I'd love to have you on board. I make weekly videos like this where I talk about something that I find interesting to do with the Grand Theft Auto series in preparation for 6 or Red Dead or whatever. But thank you so much for watching. Let's continue onward. With GTA 6, I see this as this is what was possible 13 years ago. By the time that GTA 6 comes out, it will be 13 years. And if we come up to Red Dead 2, which I plan to do in the future, where we see how the NPCs have adapted and evolved, they did a lot of work. But everything that you saw in Red Dead 2 and GTA 5 is going to be another level on what we already know. I think NPC behavior really does a lot to help sell this idea of a real world outside of you, this chaotic individual in this world. It helps ground it, right? Your chaos only feels like chaos because the rest of the world feels real to some degree. Nobody really enjoys creating nothing but carnage in a world that is already nothing but carnage. It's one of the reasons that games like Saints Row, whilst fun at the start, does kind of lose its luster in the middle, is because there's so much chaos all the time that you kind of go, okay, everything I do feels like chaos, and it doesn't feel like the world responds in any other way besides more chaos. With these quieter areas, I definitely feel like there's a huge sense of what can be achieved in rural America that we tend to forget about. And I definitely think that as someone not from the US, these are the areas that I tend to gravitate towards the most, because they really do give that lost Americana that I think so many of us grew up with. I don't know about you, but I, every so often go back and watch older films that have these small rural towns before the mega metropolises did pop up. And whilst I'm never bashing the mega metropolises, they are beautiful places and I can't wait to explore them. This is the heart and soul of Grand Theft Auto games for me. These rural places that help everything else matter. A city isn't a city without a juxtaposition. You can just roam around the city and feel like, oh wow, I'm in a city, but it's not until you take a massive step back and look at the bigger picture of this towering city, and sitting in its shadow is a smaller town. Even in the screenshots we already have, we can see it doesn't matter kind of where these screenshots are taken, you can always see Vice City in the background looming over everything. And I think that's gorgeous stuff. It really does make these places feel like a little pocket for you to explore. Maybe I'm just talking complete bollocks, but for me, these are the most important places. And I think, honestly, you should take more time to explore them because they bring a whole new element that sometimes we overlook. In our quest to be entertained and excited and everything else, we do tend to forget the smaller details. But the smaller details, at the end of the day, are what truly matters.